Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here. So there's a lot going on in DDO land right now, so I decided to make this news video to go over all of it. There's a lot to talk about, so let's just get started. First thing I want to cover is the DDO Vecna expansion, so the new mini expansion, which has been out for a few weeks now. There's 13 quests, 1 raid, a really beautiful public area involved, no wood in this area, but still, for $20, I think you're getting a lot of content for your money. So overall, I think it's good. I'm going to do a full review of it, so I'll leave that for later on. I'm not going to go too in depth here, but yeah, I think it's good. I think the main gripes I've seen on the negative side is people are saying that the loot isn't that great and that the heroic version is level 18. A lot of people don't like that decision to make that the heroic version at level 18. The loot complaints I get, the sets are great, but there are things about the loot that bothers me. A lot of it's not desirable. I just redid my main character's in-game gear set and I did not use any of it. I was actually waiting for this expansion to drop before I did my loot Tetris, and yeah, it's turned out nothing there was worth using on my main character. I mean, I think the main thing that comes to mind with the loot for me, and I won't talk forever about this, but the Lost Purpose set bonuses, they're good and they're viable and competitive, but they only appear in cloaks, helms, and armors. And the fact that the raid dino bone accessories that are craftable also only appear on cloaks, helms, and armors. Those are the non-artifact ones. The artifact ones appear on other slots, but the non-artifact ones that are from the raid, those also only appear in cloaks, helms, and armors. So for me, that kind of threw out any possibility of me using Lost Purpose, just because the loot Tetris in DDO is insane, and I need those craftable accessories, 2 of them, but the Dino Bone artifact and the regular Dino Bone accessory to fit in there. So yeah, that was my main complaint. There's a bunch of other things I could mention with the loot, but I'll leave that for the main review video for the expansion that's going to come later on. I will say though, it's loot Tetris is a thing. Every time something releases, it's hard for the devs to balance, because if it's too good, people are going to complain that last year's loot is now irrelevant. If it's not good enough, which seems to be the case now, people are going to, at least that's the consensus of a lot of players. Players are going to complain that it's undesirable, so it's hard for them to win. But I would have liked to see, if nothing else, at least more new effects on gear. We didn't see a lot of brand new effects. But anyways, as far as the level 18 issue, this is one that this is probably an unpopular opinion, and I'm going to disagree with most of y'all probably on this, but I think it's totally fine being level 18. I know players have been conditioned over the years that they have to run everything 2 levels over, but honestly, it's fine to just run stuff at level, or to even take level 19. I know that level 19 isn't a very popular level to take, just because for a lot of builds, particularly pure builds, you don't get a lot of power from it, but it's fine, guys. You can run stuff at level. I don't see the big issue. Just run the level 18 quests at level 18 or level 19. If the XP is not worth your time to do that, then that's a different issue. They should increase the XP, but the design itself, I don't have any issue with. I understand that at level 20, you're going to want to jump into epic stuff, so you're not going to want to run it 2 levels over, but you don't got to run stuff 2 levels over. It's fine. So it's my opinion on the level 18 thing. Okay, let's get into some big news that they just announced this week. So DDO gold rolls, daily gold rolls for VIPs, they're going to be back for 1 month from September 8th through October 10th. So they announced this on their social media, which I'll show you right now. So here's a little context for those of y'all who don't know the back, because there's a long backstory on this, going years now, on this VIP issue. So giving VIPs enough value has been a consistent issue really since June of 2020. So for those of y'all who don't know or just need a refresher, in June 2020, SSG released a limited time free coupon code, the first time they ever did this, which gave anyone who entered that code in the store permanent access to every adventure pack, not including expansions, but any other adventure pack for the most part. I think there might have been 1 or 2 that weren't included, especially like the new ones, like the last rendition of the code, Grip of the Hidden Hand, wasn't included. But for the most part, every single adventure pack in the game was given out for free, and that's great, and I applaud SSG for doing that. But at the same time, that took away value from VIP. And this continued on when later on they started releasing expansions annually, which has been a thing for a while now, which VIPs have to pay for. And continuing on in update 53, they made a lot of stuff like the core 5e classes and races. They made all that stuff free to play. So all these decisions they've made over the past several years have really detracted from the value of VIP, and because there hasn't been much given in addition. So in update 53, they also, to help satisfy VIPs, they gave VIPs free daily gold rolls through the end of 2022. So that was about 10 months of free daily gold rolls. They announced that, if I remember correct, well, actually, I went back and looked before I made this video, but I believe it was in February of 2022 they announced that. So you got about 10 months of free daily gold rolls. And that was great. Players loved that. There was a Q&A with Seven Cordovan that basically Severlin said that it was financial considerations were why they couldn't keep doing that. So they really shifted direction earlier in 2023. This was back in March. They announced a new VIP benefit program or benefit plan, which was going to give you, for every month you were subbed at VIP, you'd get a special reward. If for every continuous month you get another special reward, with a couple of big rewards throughout the year. But I did a whole video on that. I'll link it below in the description if you want to see all the details there. But there's still no date for that VIP program. And it was supposed to be based on the Q&As happening mid-2023, but certain things happened, some very understandable and unfortunate, like one of the DDO developers, Humble Fryer, unfortunately passed away, and apparently he was working quite a bit on this. So for whatever reason, there's been delays. So we don't know still when that VIP program is going to happen. So to again try to satisfy VIPs temporarily, they're giving 1 month of gold rolls starting, like I said again, starting September 8th. So it's going to start very soon here. So for 1 month, every day, VIPs can log in and get a free gold roll. We don't know yet when the VIP proposed plan is going to happen. They've not made any further comments saying, oh, we're going in a different direction. It just seems like it's been delayed. So who knows when it's going to happen at this point? Maybe 2024. We don't know. Okay, that's all I have to say about the gold rolls. So let's talk now about the new expansion secrets. So in Isle of Dread, for those of y'all who don't know, there were these very hard to find secrets hidden throughout the content. So these little lines of dialogue, and once you put them into the raid, in certain areas, use the /say command as part of an optional at the last phase of Skeletons in the Closet. You got an extra 2 chests with unique loot, and it took the player base a long time to find that, like months and months of trying to find that. So there has been a teaser put out on social media, which including that plus other developer comments have shown, and here I'll show them on the screen now. The social media posts and dev comments have strongly hinted that there are also some kind of hidden content in the new Vecna expansion. So that's all but been confirmed by SSG. And right now, I'm a little bit surprised they're dropping hints like this. These aren't much of a hint, as you can see, but I'm surprised that they're doing it so soon, because you would assume that it ties into the new raid, which is not even out on the live servers yet. It has been previewed on Lamania, but yeah, so I guess based on this, my assumption here is that players are not even remotely close in finding whatever the hidden secret is. It could be many things. You would think it would tie into the raid, kind of like the Skeletons in the Closet secret did, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just something you find in the regular quest. We don't know. But we do now know that there's definitely some kind of secret there. I mean, SSG has all but confirmed that. So yeah, go look, go try stuff, see if you can figure it out. And since we're on the subject here, let's talk about the new raid. It has had a few previews. I have run it on Lamania. I've run it 4 times on each normal, hard, elite, and R1. It's a raid that the raid changes a lot depending on what difficulty you run it on. And again, this is my experiences from Lamania, so things could change. That's just the preview servers. Things could change. But it's a raid that, as of right now, as of when I played it, which was the first preview, it's really short on lower difficulties, but it's more like a 20-minute raid on higher difficulties. In this raid, spoiler alert, I don't think it's much of a spoiler because you see this right upon entering the raid. You do fight the Baylor. It's a raid that's very tank focused. There's also a jump mechanic, kind of like Rudis and Project Nemesis. You got to jump to avoid damage. But a lot of it, as I said before, is very tank focused. It revolves around dragging this boss, this Baylor, near ice crystals and then breaking them when it's in range so you can hurt him, so you can remove the massive DR he has. So yeah, it's I like the raid. It's not like it's more along the lines of like a VOD in terms of scope. It's a smaller scope raid. It's not something like this long epic raid like Temple of the Deathworm or Curse of Strahd or something. it's not that. It's a smaller scope raid, but it's fun. I liked it. It's fine. One thing I want to comment on is Greatclub. So this is speculation, but it seems like there might be a plan for Greatclubs to either buff them, give them some kind of enhancement tree, or some kind of buff with current enhancements. This comes from the Lemania forums. So one of the developers responded to questions I had and other players had about there being a new Greatclub preview in the new Vecna Raid. So everyone said, why are you making a Greatclub? Greatclubs, for those y'all who don't know, really aren't supported much in DDO. They aren't supported much in the enhancements. Their crit profile isn't that great. Basically, there's no reason to use Greatclubs in DDO. Everyone who uses two-handers uses, say, a great sword or a great axe or something like a maul, like me with Sylvanas. But bottom line is no one really uses Greatclubs as a two-hander option because there's no reason to. They're not very good. And this developer comment to those concerns we all had on Lemania basically says about Greatclubs, stay tuned. So that means they must have something planned. We don't know the scope of it. I think it would be awesome if they did some kind of primal universal tree or some kind of half-orc iconic that focused on Greatclubs. I think it would be really cool. But yeah, looking forward to it. I would love to build a Greatclub cleric. Speaking of raids, we now need to talk about the new legendary raids. So just to let you guys know, this is not 100% confirmed. This is speculation, but it's kind of all but confirmed. So, and I feel bad. Sorry, Cordovan, if you're watching this. I have to talk about it, but I will put a link below in the description to a clip where, Cordovan kind of seemed like he accidentally spilled the beans on this. And the new revamped raid seems like it's going to be Legendary Chronoscope, and that's going to happen later this year, as outlined in the producer's letter. It's probably not going to happen. I would not imagine for a few months. We don't even have the Vecna expansion raid out yet. But yeah, it seemed based on this clip. Please watch below. Again, not confirmed, but it seems like the new revamped raid is going to be Legendary Chronoscope, which is a strange choice. I did a video, would have been earlier this year, about going over all the raids and trying to figure out what raid it could possibly be. I still think that Tower of Despair is by far objectively the best choice. I think it's what players want the most. I think that makes most sense coming from a raid that's not ever run. It doesn't have a viable version because it's a level 20 version. Very few people have played it. It just makes all the sense. There's so many possibilities with the loot. They could tie them into current enhancement trees. They could tie the Tower of Despair loot into Epic Destinies. There's so much potential with that raid, but they, for whatever reason, decided to go with Legendary Chronoscope. It's probably just a manpower thing. My assumption is that they didn't want to put in the time or didn't have the time available from their staff to do what probably would have been a lot of loot design in Tower of Despair, especially if they did a new ring belt set for every enhancement tree or even just every Epic Destiny. It would have required a lot of work. So with Chronoscope, Legendary Chronoscope, a strange choice. I mean, players do love Chronoscope. It's a great raid. I think it's very well received from the player base, but we have run it to death. It is run so much. Even today, it's run for greater tokens a lot. And recently, another reason this is a strange choice is that the Chronoscope just got, in the Shard Seal Scroll revamp, it got legendary versions of all that loot. All its loot has legendary versions that already exist. So what are they going to do with loot for the raid? My assumption is they're just going to add a handful of new pieces to the legendary raid, probably make the legendary loot that already exists drop in the end chest, and that's going to be it. That's my assumption. But yeah, be on the lookout for Legendary Chrono. Again, not confirmed, but all but confirmed if you look at that clip. Okay, let's talk now about optional loot, since we're last raid thing. And this is something that's been brought up a lot on the forums. People are still talking about it in the community, but the optional loot from Skeletons in the Closet. So if you all don't know, that optional I talked about with the Vecna secrets, you have to input certain lines of text in that last phase of Skeletons in the Closet into a jumping portion of that optional as well in order to get to a additional infight with the Red Hand of Vecna and get additional an additional chest, optional chest that drops named loot. Now that named loot is exclusive to that optional chest. You cannot get it in the main raid chest. You have to do the optional to get it, and you cannot buy it with raid runes. So a lot of players have gotten frustrated because that loot is really hard to get, and some of the items in there are super desirable, like the belts in there, super desirable. The dinosaur summon is really cool. I think a lot of players want that as well, but particularly the belt is like best in slot. So a lot of players are getting, for certain builds, it's best in slot, and a lot of players are getting really frustrated with not being able to get that loot because you basically are subject to random to RNG, and that's it. You can't buy it with runes. So a lot of players, want this loot to be offered for runes. But here's a quote from Cordovan, and this is an old quote actually. This is from June, but they have stated, SSG has stated now that they will not be offering that loot for runes. So it's not going to come for runes. Could they change their mind? Maybe, but as of right now, their stance is no, it's never going to come for runes. And I think there's room for a middle ground here. I said this repeatedly in other videos, but what they really should do here is add a second rune type and make it drop in the optional chest. That way, if the concern with SSG is, oh, you could get the loot without doing the optional, well, just make a second rune type that only drops in an optional chest to let people eventually get it. Because with the RNG right now, I mean, you could easily go a full year of running that raid every week and not get your item. It's kind of absurd. You can't get your item. I mean, it's just RNG and that's it. I don't know. There's just, especially if you get bad luck, RNG, I mean, you may never get your item. The raid drop rates are really low, and it's just strange that that SSG is taking this stance, since almost every other raid item is purchasable for runes. So it's just very, very strange. I'm not really sure why they don't add a second rune type to at least guard against bad RNG. I understand if they don't want to have it drop in the main chest, or make it purchasable for double the runes, say like the Faith Twisted loot is in Dryad and the Demigod. But why not add at least a second rune type in the optional chest? Only drops in the optional chest. I think that would be good. That way players don't have don't have the problem with just having bad RNG and them being able to get what they want. They might be afraid to do that since Skeletons is still, to this day, the newest. It's been out for over a year, but it's still the newest raid. We've been a really, really bad dry spot for raids. We have not gotten one in over a year now. So maybe when a few more raids drop, 2 more are supposed to come this year, the Vecna Raid and the Legendary Raid, which is probably going to be Chronoscope. So maybe after that they'll change their tune, but as of right now, based on this quote here, that will not be coming. Runes will not be coming purchasable for runes, that optional loot. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is class buffs. So in the description to this video, I will link the forum posts, but the devs in Update 51 have been doing some mile wide, inch deep style of buffs to heroic enhancement. So they're hitting lots of different trees with small buffs. Most of these buffs are pretty insignificant, but there are some ones to highlight. They've done 2 rounds of this so far, so Update 61 and Update 61.1, and I'm not going to go over all these changes in this video. The ones that people seem most excited about is Vistani getting Kukri support and Archmage. So Archmage's got some big buffs to the SLA. So I would just say, look in the description to the video. If you haven't already, look at those forum posts by the devs. Just look, because more than likely a tree you're using has been buffed in some way. So check out the trees you're using, look at the buffs, see if it's something that compels you to maybe use that enhancement now or change your build up a bit to get access to a different tree. So yeah, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Take care.